discussing the fall COVID-19 surge as well as the upcoming presidential election.
Followed by a look at Prop 16 and potential theme park reopening.
And finally, we're committed to bringing you the news, views, and info to go on this episode of the Report Roundtable Discussion. I'm Bree Eastlick.
I'm Amanda Mendoza.
I'm Andrea Carvajal.
And I'm Jorge Flores. As you can see, we are continuing to practice social distancing and are going to conduct our episodes via Zoom for the foreseeable future. Although we cannot be together in person, I invite you all to continue to be part of the discussion. Follow us on Twitter at The Report CSUF or on our Titan TV Instagram, Titan TV CSUF, to keep you in touch with us and view our new content.
We begin today's episode with more COVID-19 updates. According to health experts, the fall surge is here. Michael Osterholm, the director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, recently gave an alarming update on COVID-19 during Meet the Press.
The next 6 to 12 weeks are going to be the darkest of the entire pandemic. Vaccines will not become available in any meaningful way until early to third quarter of next year. And even then, half the U.S. population at this point is skeptical even taking the vaccine.
The U.S. recently saw the largest number of cases during the peak of the pandemic, with 70,000. However, Osterholm says we could potentially see a higher number in the next few months. So everybody, as of October 19th, there were 8.1 million cases and 219,674 coronavirus deaths in the U.S. Though California's cases have leveled off and is still relatively low, the holidays are coming up. So do you think the cases will surge again because of this?
Absolutely, I really do. Now, Anthony Fauci came out and said that we don't need a nationwide lockdown, but instead to make our conditions safer for everyone. But like you said, with holiday season just being around the corner, everyone's going to be meeting up with their families. They're going to get together. We have holiday after holiday after holiday during these last few months of the year. So honestly, everyone that I know is going to be meeting with their families. So we definitely need to be making it safer. Maybe finding some kind of way to make it safer for you and your families. And honestly, I think we all really need to take our part and try to make things, safer for everyone and get everything to just kind of end so that hopefully by sometime next year, everything is over. What else do you guys think?
I think that's the truth. We need a lockdown. The thing is that when it comes to COVID-19, there's a lot of politics behind the scenes. And I don't think there's going to be a lockdown from the government. The reason is that if we have another lockdown, for the government will look like a failure. There was no progress through the year. And that's going to look bad. We have elections coming up. So I don't think there's going to be a lockdown. But I personally agree with it. We need it. And I strongly recommend for everyone to continue with the healthy protocols and measures, social distancing apart from everyone. The thing here is to stay safe within your family. What do you think, Andrea?
Even according to CNN, there were 27 states just this past week that reported rising numbers. Just in this past week, there is no holiday yet. There's going to be Halloween, Christmas. My personal family, we're not even going to meet up with my grandparents anymore for Christmas, which is our holiday. So I'm the opposite of Bree, where I've actually known more people that are canceling their kind of holidays with their family and more just in their immediate families are just staying home, which is really sad. But we also have to remember this is still a pandemic. We knew this was coming. This is 2020 at this point, and we're just going to have to be mindful and respectful of everyone and be safe. And just remember to follow those guidelines so we can get out of this as soon as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Andre, it really depends on the area you're in. I'm up in Northern California, and I wonder if, being up here, there's more people who, aren't going to be following guidelines. So I'm really wondering to see how that's going to be. Another thing that makes me upset is that Trump has come out and stated that the CDC should make it strongly encouraged rather than mandatory to wear masks in public transit. We're not going to be making things better if we don't enforce the mask, so I think we really need to stay on top of that. So how about we move more into politics? With election day just around the corner and the Oval Office may or may not have a new president occupying the space, early reports indicate a substantial increase in voter turnout compared to past election years. As of October 19th, more than 29 million people have voted, which is more than 6 times the number of votes during the same point in 2016. Democrats make up most of the early votes with 54%, as Republicans reportedly trail behind with 25%. Even during a pandemic and other technical challenges, one thing is clear: people are making their votes count. Now, before we get started on this discussion, there's another Titan TV show called In Focus that we have, and they just had a show on voting and civil dialogue for this 2020 election. And we encourage you to go check that out as well and get more informed how you can help make the election easier for you and your loved ones. Now, you guys, 6 times the amount at this time from last election. That's absolutely amazing. You know, I have my ballot, but I'm going to be turning it in person on election day. But you know, by this time this episode airs, it'll be a week away from elections. What concerns are you guys having? How are you voting?
I've personally already voted by mail. My whole household, I made them get the ballot done. I've helped them look through the props and was like, okay, we need to go turn this in now before we forget or it gets closer. So it's like a mile away from my house, so easy, drop it off in there and you're good. But I do have worries. Even in Baldwin Park, they burned a ballot box. And this isn't new. We've seen this already a couple weeks ago, and it worries me that these votes and more people are gonna keep destroying these ballot boxes and they're not gonna get counted for. And listen, we have 1 week away from the election, and I just hope that they figure this out quickly as possible, or at least keep them guarded. And even these voting centers, to keep people safe, wear your masks, even at the TSU when there is a voting station. Just be safe and mindful of everyone and respectful.
And something very important as well is that the third debate is coming up too. So now that we're going to have this new debate, we got to be very conscious about our expectations from the candidates. I expect that this is going to be more serious, and now the mics that are going to be muted, that's going to be great, because we need more discussion about the proposals that they got to give to us. I have high expectations, and I am very, very glad. I'm so happy that they are voting right now. And the biggest community that we have for this turnout is us, the youth. So I still encourage everyone to drop by any ways. So that's very important. What do you think also, Amanda?
You're right, Jorge. I actually dropped off my ballot 2 days ago. And to be honest, I wore my mask. I made sure I looked up every proposition before I voted. And at this time, I think it's very important to stay engaged with politics. And like you said, the youth have to vote. And I'm so proud of my friends and my family that we're getting out there and that we're making a change in our community.
I couldn't agree more, Amanda. I'm so glad that we're all voting and taking charge of this election and talking more about it. With less than 2 weeks away from Election Day, Prop 16 seeks to reinstate affirmative action. After being banned in 1996 by Prop 209, racial inequality and police violence has become a larger part of the national conversation this year, arguably making it more relevant than ever. Proposition 16 would allow the state of California's government and public universities able to factor in race, gender, and ethnicity as determinants for things like hiring or college admissions. Supporters like the UC State and Community College say the reinstitution of affirmative action will help undo generations of discrimination and racism toward minorities such as Black, Hispanic, and female students. Those who oppose claim that California has already made significant strides in diversity and argue that making decisions based on race, gender, or ethnicity is a prejudice of its own. Now, if Prop 16 is passed, this affirmative action will not be a requirement. It's the ban that will be lifted. But those that oppose this affirmative action want something in its place, making more diverse and inclusive environments. Now, California is already a very diverse state. It has very significant strides in diversity. Do you guys still think there needs to be improvement, or do you think race, gender, and ethnicity is important for applications? What are your thoughts?
Personally, I have mixed feelings in regard to affirmative action. I did vote yes on Prop 16. However, I'm not very confident with my vote. On one hand, though it won't be required if it's passed, I think it would be a good idea because it would encourage universities and places hiring to include marginalized people who might face adversity. And on the other hand, I think companies and colleges that may want to be perceived as inclusive but aren't really may claim that since they use affirmative action, they don't discriminate. So at the moment, I'm still trying to figure out what my thoughts are about it. What do you think, Jorge?
Well, it's very controversial, these kind of topics, because when we talk about Prop 16, we're talking about trying to eliminate discrimination. So I also agree with you, Amanda. I believe that it's better if we can judge, if we can kind of select people for jobs, for internships, for any kind of applications by their skills, not by their gender, their color, or any kind of other aspects. The thing is that voting for Prop 16, we have that initiative to eliminate discrimination, but at the end, I think we're producing more discrimination because we're just trying to select people by their gender, by their race, by their community. So at the end, I think it's very controversial, but by far, I think that if we are going to select people to be part of higher positions, it should be by their skills. What do you think, Brie?
Absolutely. I really like what everyone had to say about this. Personally, I'm very stuck about this prop. Researching it, I feel like I'm a lot more aware of what it's about. Those who are against it, they say it's using discrimination to combat discrimination. And then those for it say it's going to give more opportunities for people. So, when someone's looking at your application for university and you're competing with so many people for a huge school, they're going to look at your race background compared to what they already have, who they've accepted. But I'm scared about this because if a school, has some sort of discrimination already in their office, they're going to be able to act upon it even more. I'm really starting to think it could be worse for people of color, possibly, depending on who's in office.
Of course, now let's go into another controversial topic because for the past 8 months, California theme parks have had to shut their gates to the public as COVID-19 cases surge across the state. Governor Gavin Newsom and California Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Ghaly issued guidelines last Tuesday for the reopening process that will include limited capacity depending on park size. Parks like Universal Studios Hollywood, Knott's Berry Farm, and Disneyland will only be allowed to be open at its 25 capacity when they meet certain time requirements. Smaller theme parks are not expected to have as difficulty of the time with reopening since they are mostly outdoors and typically draw more local crowds. All theme parks will also need to enforce their mandatory use of masks and implementing a reservation system with prior screening for symptoms with all guests. The news was met with some backlash from Disneyland Resort President Ken Pottruck, who stated that these guidelines are, quote, irreparably devastating, end quote. What do you think, guys? Because do you think that these theme parks should they reopen? Because some supporters, they say yes, as they are afraid of being laid off. Some of them, they just want to get out of this worry, just being at your place. You just want to go out, just want to relax a little bit. In my opinion, I still think that they should remain closed. We just started our show saying that we have this fall surge. So do you think that it's appropriate to reopen these parks? I think it should be more about the corporation and how they can help the employees. But it's more important our health. So what do you think?
I understand both sides of the argument. So personally, I'm concerned about the severity of the pandemic, especially during wintertime. But if Disney isn't able to open back up, many people will be left jobless, and the city of Anaheim will probably face the economic consequences. What do you think, Andrea?
I kind of agree with Jorge. I know holidays are a busy time of year for theme parks. They get their money. So many visitors come from out of state and the country, but that's really not an excuse to open unless they can follow these guidelines that California is telling them and not kind of argue with what these guidelines are. 25%, yes, we understand it's low, but it's better than nothing to help economically a little bit in Anaheim, and the people that got laid off, I just feel for them so much as well. And we need to keep in mind that we still need to be safe and do it in some sort of way. We can figure this out. What about you, Brie?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really agree. I honestly think that the yellow tier is just way too strict. There's way too many people in Orange County, to rely on the yellow tier. That is the lowest tier, you guys. And I just think that, with Disneyland not being open, it's hurting Orange County. It is hurting Anaheim. It is hurting the whole entire community. We need to get people back in their jobs, back to some kind of normalization. I say open it, and then if there's a big surge, if there's something that happens, then close it back down again. I think that we should at least give it a chance. Disney World has been open for months now, and there has not been one case traced back to Disney World. They have made so many changes to make things safer for their community, and I understand that Disney World is in Florida, but at the same time, I think that they are an example, and I think that we can at least try. But I definitely think that we will not be seeing it open anytime soon. I think that we have probably until summer until it'll open. So, it's definitely something that we'll look into more. But you know what, guys? That's all the time we have for today on the Report Roundtable Discussion. Have a safe week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Bree Slick.
I'm Jorge Flores.
I'm Amanda Mendoza.
And I'm Andrea Carvajal. As always, stay fresh, Fullerton.